Okay, we got this video from Valuetainment. I know I just released something earlier this week about tips and taxes, but he does a great breakdown in this video of what the history of taxes in the United States are. I mean, it all started with the Boston Tea Party, taxation and no representation. I mean, because you want to say if they're going to start taking your money, right? But check this out. I'll add my commentary and, see where it goes.
Did you know a little over 100 years ago, they tried to impose an income tax, and the Supreme Court came out and said, what are you talking about? This is completely unconstitutional. This is the Pollock versus Farmers. Pollock ends up winning. But then 20 years later, 1913, you know what we do? We announced the Federal Reserve, and we introduced the income tax. You know when? Exactly a year before World War I.
Woodrow Wilson. There's actually a cool book. You can look at a story on this. I'll leave it down, my affiliate link to it down in the description below. The Creature from Jekyll Island. Dude, it's like a murder mystery almost. It's wild.
Did we know something that was coming? Let's start collecting money before we go to war 1 year before. And then now it's a normal thing. There's this guy that's got this department called the DOGE with another guy. Both of them are very smart, Vivek and Elon Musk. It's called the Department of Government Efficiency. Do you know when Elon Musk bought Twitter, he had 7,500 employees. Overnight, he fired half of them, 3,750. Of the 3,750 that got fired, they recruited another 1,250 to quit with them. So 7,500 became 2,500 very quickly. This guy's used to making things to be more efficient. What if that took place and it forced everybody like us to work in a free market? What if that were to happen? We're going to talk today about a plan on if there is a way for us to go back to zero income taxes. We're going to propose our plan. You get to tear it apart, but we're going to talk about that today. If you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. By the way, did you know that the U.S. government collects roughly $4.7 trillion in gross taxes? 2023, $4.7 trillion, of which, do you know what percentage of those taxes is from tariffs that we get from other countries? You know what the number is? Only $80 billion. That's it. Now, this is why this is so weird. The $80 billion that we collect, if you go back and look at the history of America, where we got our income from to pay for everything, you know 100% of the money, the taxes that the U.S. government collected just a little over 100 years ago was from tariffs. If you look at this chart, it'll show you tariff revenue as a share of total federal receipts from 1798 to 2023. Go all the way back to 1798. Look at that.
Dude, that's incredible. Like, it just drops. This is honestly, it's probably going to get into it in the video, but this is progressive politics rather than republicanism. It's progressivism where you keep growing the government and getting their hands into more and more and more and more rather than letting the free market take care of it. I'm not saying get rid of all government. You need a referee in the game, but just watch.
100% of the revenue the U.S. government got was from tariffs. And every time you see a drop off, you see that one, right? 1812, it drops off to 45% because they wanted to collect taxes from you and I. That's because of War of 1812. Another crisis, another war. But even if you go all the way up to 1910, 50% of the U.S. revenue came from what? Tariffs. The other 50% was from excise taxes. So let me simplify this for you. How much money comes in from importing goods and services, right, from other countries? The number is $3.83 trillion in 2023. Of which the average tariff we get is around 2%. 2% equals to $80 billion. $80 billion is what other countries are paying, okay? 80 billion divided by the $4.7 trillion that the U.S. government collects taxes from you and I. 80 billion divided by 4.7 trillion. That means 99.83% of all taxes that the government is running on, you and I pay for. The countries out there that are saying, here's 340 million rich Americans to come and sell your products to, these countries are saying, holy shit, America, this is the best deal ever. They're only paying 0.017%. What? And just 150 years ago, 100% of the federal spending was coming from who? Tariffs. Why did we stop doing that? I don't know. So what if we charged, instead of the 2% to get the 80 billion, what if we said moving forward across the board is 25%? That's $1 trillion per 25%. 50% is another $2 trillion in income. That's money. And I can bring it down for you and I that we're buying stuff here so we can go back down to 0% taxes when it once used to be unconstitutional. According to the Supreme Court, to tax you and I, it was unconstitutional. Now you see the concern. and the benefits of using tariffs. So this next chart is very important. Think about the amount of income the US government gets. Okay, think about GDP. Here's what our GDP is. What percentage of the GDP did the US government spend to exist? Okay, if you go back and look at this chart, the federal outlays as a share of GDP over time, in 1849, we only spent 2% of it. Whatever money came in, the government only spent 2% of it. Look at the number today.
Look where the explosion happened. See, we're at 5% in the 20s, the roaring 20s, and then we double in the 30s. That's where FDR gets in. And then he does he got elected 4 times. The only president to ever do that. The only president to be elected more than twice, right? And they actually changed the Constitution after this. That's just a fun fact. But after that, there's the war, and then it doesn't drop ever again. Actually, during that time, they took us briefly off the gold standard because we had more bills of credit than gold. We had to actually fix that during that administration. And then in the 70s, that's when we came off the gold standard completely. Actually, constitutionally, we were only able to we couldn't print money. You couldn't have bills of credit. You had to have gold and silver as money. Things change. Money, we could go to a cryptocurrency soon. I don't know what we're going to do there. I'm kind of digressing a bit, but like just look at that point is when it skyrockets and never comes back.
Today it's 37%. So if we got roughly, $27 trillion in GDP, 37% of the GDP, the federal outlay. Are you kidding me?
That's insane.
No, that's a problem. We've gotten in the habit of just saying another program. It's okay. While we're in debt, how much money? No. We need to stop this. And there is a way to figure out what you pay zero in income taxes. If we make the government more responsible, the way they make you and I, they force you and I to be more responsible or else. But not them. They missed the audit, the Pentagon 7 years. No. But we know what we're doing. You didn't pay $600. God forbid, we're going to come after you. Big difference. Percentage-wise, where's this money going to? Some people are not going to be happy, but we have to have this conversation. So 24% of the budget is for health insurance, 21% Social Security, 13% defense, 8% economic security, 7% benefits for veterans and federal retirees, 10% is the debt, 5% is education, 2% transportation, natural resources, agriculture, 1%.
That's 45% for health insurance and Social Security, then 13% for defense. We have to become more efficient with that.
Science, medical research, law enforcement, international, another 3%, then all other is 5%. So some of this stuff we have to cut. Some of this stuff we have to get somebody else to pay for, and you'll see how. So in other words, if you look at health insurance, 2023 was 24%, 1.6 trillion. If you look at Social Security, 21%, 1.4 trillion. If you look at defense, 820 billion.
Sorry for
this
the
is a
sound,
lot of
I'll
money
fix
that's
that.
being spent just with those three.
Post.
Just those three combined is 57%. So here's what's important to think about. When we funded wars, every time we funded wars, the government will come and say, hey, people, guys, we need some money. Can we get some money from you guys? And we put some tiers of taxes, between this income and this income of 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, and it will go to 7%. Nothing crazy is where we'd go to. Then we'd say, okay, once we pay off the debt from this war, we'll stop doing taxes again. Okay, fine. And Americans trusted it. Lincoln, hey, we need some money for Civil War. How long are you going to do this, Lincoln? It's going to be 10 years. Okay, cool, let's do it. 3% income over $800, couple other things that they put in there. 10 years later, income taxes is gone. Why? Because we paid off the war, right? So next war. We kept going through this. And this is when in 1894, the Pollock versus the farmers, like, hey, do we want to put taxes on income? No, it's unconstitutional. Okay, great, you're right, it's in the Constitution, it's unconstitutional. Sorry we brought this up. 20 years later, hey man, 16th Amendment. What's that? We want to be able to tax your income. Are you serious? Yes, but it's small. Yeah, it's really introducing a gradual income tax with rates of 1 to 7.
Woodrow Wilson. At the same time as the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is not a government agency. It's a private corporation. It's not a government agency. It's as federal as Federal Express. Federal Express is not a government agency. It's a business. The Federal Reserve is the same thing, very similar, but works hand in hand with the government. All enacted at the same time during Woodrow Wilson.
7% for people making over $500,000 a year. All right, okay, maybe we'll do this a little bit again because maybe there's a war going on because it's World War I. Yes, but it's going to go away. Yeah, of course it's going to go away. No problem. All of a sudden, they didn't go away for 111 years. Now watch this. They looked at the World War I. They said, whoa, This time around, they weren't saying anything about it. Look at this stuff, the taxes. We need another war. If we have another war, what could happen? World War II takes place. Watch this. Go back to the chart, the outlay chart. What do you notice? 1930, 39, 10% of GDP. But look at next year, World War II,
Boom.
28%.
Said never
And it
comes
stayed
back.
above that for God knows how long, and now at 37% and higher, because we officially accepted that it's okay to pay income taxes. So now they're like, wait a minute, we can tax these guys. Let's just see how much more we can collect. All of a sudden, like, dude, this is great. Use it. In 1939, only 4 million people filed taxes. Total revenue, $900 million. In 1943, just 4 years later, 41 million people filed taxes. More than 10 times. How much revenue? 13 billion. 2 years later, 43 million people filed taxes. The government all of a sudden raised $45 billion. And they sat there and they said, this is brilliant. They're no longer bitching about it, guys. They have accepted the fact that this country got started fighting taxes. They forgot about their own history. Look at this. This is awesome. Let's keep taxing them. What a great program. What's another program we can come up with? Dude, how about we do payroll taxes? That's genius. Payroll? Yeah, payroll taxes. So you mean like their money is going to be taken out of their, before they get the check, they're paying payroll taxes? There's no way they're going to agree to that. Trust me, they will agree to it. There is no way. Dude, they're going to be okay with it.
Dude, look at your paycheck, look at gross, and then look at all the taxes that come out at the federal and state level, and then your net. Gross is your top line. That was the value that you were generated. You're actually missing one thing. Social Security, you pay 7.5%. You're missing something. Your employer, any business, if you're you own business or self-employed, you know this, but your employer is paying another 7.5%. So that tax is actually 15% for you to have that job. If you're self-employed, you actually have to pay both sides of those taxes. So you actually pay 15%. So if, like, say I was a YouTuber or something and I was self-employed, I didn't have an actual business structure, just a sole proprietor, I would have to pay my federal taxes, my state taxes, and my Social Security tax at double, 15% on top of everything there. This is money that you can't get, or your employer can't pay you, because if he gives you a raise, he has to pay 7.5% on top of that. Just consider that.
No joke. Yes. Alternative minimum tax, 1969. They'll be okay. At this point, they've accepted taxes. They'll be okay. Just put it on. Tag on more. Go ahead. Do more. Do more. Do more. Let them keep doing it. They're not going to complain about it. They're going to figure this thing out. By the time they do, they're going to be in so much debt that they're going to accept the fact that they have to keep paying taxes. And that's today. Okay, so back to the question. How do we get rid of income taxes where you pay 0% taxes? Let's talk tariffs first. We already know that $4.7 trillion that we spend annually, we have to, one, either lower some of the spending, or two, we have to create some income, right? One of the two. Like if you want to change your life, either you need more income or you need to lower your expenditure so you have more discretionary income. Make sense? So the 4.7's got to come down and we got to increase some more revenue. Tariffs, right now it's only 80 billion. What if we made 25% across the board, no matter what country it is? That's crazy, Pat. What's crazy is we're in debt. And what's crazy is you and I would be cool to pay 0% income taxes if our government can get their act together. Per 25% tariffs across the board instead of 2%, we collect $1 trillion. That 4.7 officially became $3.7 trillion. Let's go to the next one. So now, you know how there's these apps called Mint that you can go out there and get them where you can kind of find out some of the things that you've been paying for the last 3.5 years that you never thought about you're paying for? You know what I'm talking about? The government does that, except they do it in the billions of dollars, right? And it's called overpayments, unknown payments, underpayments, technical improper payments.
74% overpayments. They're just billing people wrong and not getting the money back and not fixing it. Unknown payments, just gone. Unknown payments.
Wasted payments. We do this every year.
People get divorced over unknown payments.
It's not a big deal. You're paying for it. I'm paying for it, right? We're solving for 0%. Let's go through this. Current waste per year, $400 billion a year.
400 billion.
That's 25% spending on inefficiencies and fraud just in health insurance programs. And there's an estimated additional $200 to $300 billion due to inflated pricing of drugs, treatments, and administrative overhead. You combine those two together, that's another $650 billion.
I cover all this in the Department of Government Efficiency content I do, the Daily DOGE. They're shorts. I'll be covering it from July 4th, 2026, when the program officially ends. I'll be doing a daily upload based on that content. sharing information that they have, covering topics like this. I just think it's necessary that we share this information and it goes directly to the people and you share it with your family. Share this video. Check out Valuetainment.
Social Security, another $3 billion of wasted payments. So that's now $653 billion. Defense, another $123 billion of procurement inefficiencies and fraud. Add another $123 billion there. Then you have another price gouging in defense that could add another $50 to $100 billion per year. Let's say it's only $75 billion. That's $198 billion of wasted payments just for defense. Where are we at now? $851 billion. We just found another $1 trillion of wasted spending. Hello, that 4.7 with 25% tariffs just went to 3.7. With this 850, went to 2.8, 2.9. Interesting. What else can we do? Let's continue. We got another one for you. In 2023, federal agencies alone made $236 billion in improper payments, okay?
236 billion is bigger than some industries. My day job doesn't even follow in isn't even that big of an industry.
175 billion was overpayments. That's 74% of it. Unknown payments, 45 billion. Underpayments, 11.5 billion. Technical improper payments, 4.6 billion. We just found another $236 billion. I think we're now at around 2.6, 2.5 trillion. Not bad. All right, this next one's going to be a little bit weird, so we have to negotiate in a creative way.
This is like 236 billion is half of Elon Musk's wealth. It's like you just misplaced it. Richest man in the world. I just misplaced half my money.
Do you know how many personnel, U.S. military personnel we have around the world? It's roughly 168,571. So let's say 170,000, right? Of which country think has the most? Japan. In Japan, we have 53,246 personnel there, okay? Germany's got 35K. South Korea's got 24K. Italy's got 12. And United Kingdom's got 10,000. Now, why are we there? We're there partially because these countries want us to be there to feel protected and safe. Japan, protected from who? China. You got South Korea, protected from who? North Korea. Everybody is protected from somebody. They want United States presence there. However, who's paying for it? Why are we paying for it? Are we not giving you protection? If I ask 40 people to come and provide security for an event of mine, am I paying for that? Or are they paying for it? I mean, who's paying for what? I'm asking for protection. You want protection? Yes. Guess what? Why don't you pay for it? Matter of fact, we went and pulled up the number of how much U.S. has spent protecting Japan since 1945 till today. You know what that number is? Roughly $500 billion. Interesting. What country do we owe the most money to that they bought bonds with us? I think it's roughly 1.1 trillion. You know what it is? I think it's Japan. What if we go back to Japan and we say, hey, Japan, we know we're making payments to you of such and such amount. Guess what? We've kind of protected you for the last 80 years. It's a long time that we've been doing this for you. That's a long time. It's a $500 billion cost to us. It's starting to get expensive. We're thinking about pulling everybody out. However, there's only one way we'll stay there. What's that? One, the debt that we owe you, we need to split it in half. And two, moving forward, for this that we have, you need to pay us $45 billion every year. What are you talking about? That's our cost. We're passing the cost over to you for protection. Would you like that? Because China's around the corner and they're getting more powerful.
1 point on that. 80 years, it's like the child that was born the day World War II ended, okay, will be in his 80s or have passed away already. So that entire generation that we took care of or contributed to is already gone. That's how long we've been doing this.
No. Well, then let's figure this thing out. So this is a creative way of adding a part of getting rid of our debt or recollecting payments from all these countries we give them protection to. Guess what? Make an annual payment. What if this total becomes roughly $200 billion here that we collect, plus we take $500 billion off of our debt? What does that look like? That 2.6 officials at $2.4 trillion. Another savings in our annual expenditure. This next one is creative, and the right creative minds can come up with an idea here. Do you know the U.S. government owns roughly 28% of all the land in the U.S.? That's 640 million acres. Of the 640 million acres,
We might buy Greenland.
that they own, 10% of it, 64 million acres, is land that you can develop on. So what if we take that 64 million acres and we go to some folks and we say, hey, we want to sell this land. We want to offer you to come in here. This is all U.S. folks that we want to invest into this. And we create a program to start generating some income there. What does that look like? Who knows? The numbers there's going to be in the billions, but that's another way of pulling back and having some income that comes back to us where taxes go lower. So just now, if you look at everything that we've talked about, we went from 4.7 trillion to 2.3 trillion at 25% tariffs. If we went to 50% tariffs, that would be 75% of the 4.7 trillion that's been collected. Think about that. So that means now we're only dealing with the annual number of the 4.7 trillion being around 1.2, 1.3 trillion dollars. What does that look like? Where are we at now? What can we do with that now? And then people may say, well, if you increase tariffs to 50%, items we buy may go higher. No problem, but jobs are going to come to America. We're going to get paid. So then if we eliminate taxes, well, that's pretty what we can't do that though, can we? There's many things we can do. What about Social Security? It's a big part of the cost, right? Pat, you don't want to touch Social Security. You will never get elected. I'm not running for anything. I'm not trying to get elected, but Social Security expenditure, we're talking about $1.4 trillion per year. What if we say the following? Whoever got Social Security so far, guess what? Get your payments that you paid in. We'll put the money back to you. Go do whatever you want to do. Moving forward, you're not paying no more Social Security for anybody else. Just the people that we make commitments to. Do your thing. Let's move on. 0% Social Security because taxes are going to zero. You don't have to worry about it. We can work with that.
Social Security is insane. I actually just learned this from a financial advisor recently, that there was a deferral thing going on with local government employees where they didn't have to pay into Social Security, so they were paying into a pension plan, and that way they wouldn't have to go into Social Security. But what was happening is that it would be essentially prorated or phased out in your Social Security, so that local government employee would get to retirement, and what they would have gotten for a check from the federal government for Social Security, say it would have been $2,000. They prorate it down, so it'd be something like $200. It was very small. Congress actually just fixed that. So now those payments will actually go up. So a large amount of local and I think state, I could be wrong on this, but local and state people that would have gotten a smaller bit of that Social Security are now going to get 10 times up to 10 times more of what they would have been receiving. So actually there's going to be a massive expenditure increase on Social Security from this point going forward. So it's actually just going to get worse.
Gradual decrease that we go through. And we get to a point that we create a crime if you keep causing wars. You want to keep causing war? Hey, man, listen, knock it off. We're seeing how much debt we're going into destroying average families. When you look at single family household incomes, back in the days, one person worked, wife stayed home with the family and kids. We were having more kids. We're having fewer kids. We're having dual income sources. Everybody has to work. Why? Just to fund wars? Do you realize a big reason why so many wives and husbands are both working, having multiple jobs, is to fund wars? Think about what I just said right there. Let me get this straight. Somebody was able to raise the kids and was able to have more kids. We're not doing that now. Why? Because we're having more wars that we have to find and fund all this other stuff. Don't you think that's a little ludicrous? I think. You know how we're down to the last $1 trillion or something like that?
And then you send the kids to war.
Got $1.2 trillion. You know, right now we have roughly 20 million employees working for state and federal. Think about it. 20 million, if we took an average salary of $75,000, because you know, DC, those guys get paid a lot of money, but let's just say $75,000. 20 million times $75,000 is roughly $1.5 trillion. What if we fired 50% of
Dude, the state of Massachusetts just got 11% raise, by the way.
Of course, some is state, some is federal. But if we get another $750 billion of coming back to the government, yes. We're almost there, folks. We're not that far off. And by the way, what if we got a little bit leaner and tighter? What would happen if we went on this crazy 10-year run like this? How much more money would be in your pocket? How would your life be if we were able to solve this for the next 10 years? What would happen with that? Is that a dream you're bought into? By the way, tear apart the entire argument. Share it with accountants. Share it with people that politically disagree with capitalists, and they trash capitalists, and they hate Elon Musk, and they hate anybody that's talking about entrepreneurship and business and all these rich, greedy people. Tear apart the argument. Would you like your taxes to be lower? Is your solution just to tax the rich? Because it ain't working. 50%, the bottom 50% of taxpayers only pay 3% of taxes. Let me say that to you one more time. The bottom 50% only pay 3%. The top 3% pay 50%. Think about what we're thinking about, numbers, give or take. The rich are paying plenty of taxes. This is about getting back to this so you and your family can become financially free one day. Because the way we're going right now, it ain't looking too good.
Thank you for watching this video. Thank you, PBD, for putting this together in Valuetainment. I'll link the original down below. I'll put his books too on Amazon. The guy's really great. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's going to be a billionaire soon. This channel of Valuetainment has exploded over the last 4 years. Comment down below what you want me to cover, any videos you want me to look into next. Leave any disagreements down there, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because I'm doing the Daily Doge to update content like this. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.